So, ladies and gentlemen, myself and my fellow guildmates here of Misfit Legion from Misfit Legatus, the uh, wonderful VTuber, or beginning to be
Yeah, hello.
VTuber, right there with the
Aspiring.
dapper ass hat.
Aspiring, yeah. Look, if anybody's dapper here, it's the dude with the dice.
You don't
Fair enough.
say.
Fair enough. But we wanted to give our honest to God feedback on Chrono Odyssey, which I know currently, as of this moment, I have just shy of 30 hours in Chrono Odyssey playtest. Obviously, we were playing in an old dev build. Obviously, the devs have confirmed this on various different occasions that this is not ideal situation, but this is the most stable one that they have. They actually responded to Canon XO, who's an MMO creator here on Twitch, who is a Twitch partner. Wonderful guy, by the way. Um, and him and his crew and everything else like that, he actually brought it up and said that, the devs did state that, yes, the build that we get is not perfect, but it's the most stable out of all the builds that they have. And in this video, I wanted to record all of our feedback. I wanted to record all this stuff because I wanted to present this to the devs so that way they can get some feedback from people that are a mixed breed between hardcore MMO and casual. I myself, with this game, was right there in the middle.
Why are you looking
Um,
at me when you say casual?
you're the
No, I'm
furthest
pretty
thing
sure
from
he's looking
casual.
at me. Pretty sure he's looking at me. This is the first MMO I've actually played.
Yeah, but like in relation to that though, like I wanted to get everyone's statements on the matter. Obviously, I'll go last. I'll give everybody else here a chance to introduce themselves, and at the same time, give them a chance to give their feedback. We're gonna go from left to right. So on my screen, Dapper, you're first.
Wonderful. Yeah, Dapper Dice here. As somebody who, when I find a game, I will get encyclopedic about it and learn as much as I can, as fast as I can. I will say that this game, from the dev build that we played, honestly was enjoyable. Uh, I enjoy the action style of it instead of just stand there and rotate abilities. It's actually engaging. You got to focus on the fight. Got to dodge. Got to pay attention. I will also say that I enjoyed all three classes that I ended up playing because I did level all of them to at least 8. Um, so the weapons were engaging. I like the crafting system so far. Obviously, with it being a dev build, I wanted to see it expanded on. Just make it clear where some things are. Have a way to understand where some things are because there were some harvestables where I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to harvest. I guess so. Um, Other than that, I really enjoyed it. I could definitely see myself putting a lot of time into this, and I'm excited to see what the other three classes have to offer down the line.
That sound like a lot of pros. What are the negatives that you found about the game? Like this includes from anything from animations to combat mechanics to climb mechanics. Anything in particular that you think that needs a drastic improvement?
I mean, when it comes down to it, with it being a dev build, most of my downsides would be things that are just inherently going to be cleaned up in a later build. Just smoother walking, smoother jumping, smoother frames, game optimization overall. But again, that's bound to come eventually with this being a dev build and whatnot. There's no like core gameplay mechanics that were off-putting to me. The game felt good. Um, I didn't really have anything that I was like, "Oh, I wish this was completely different," but I also look at the positives when I play games, so nothing really stuck out to me as like, "Oh, this was horrible. Let's not do this." I actually really like the bounties minigame too, because that was different. I hadn't seen
I
that
think that's
before.
a
So,
great way to get like a lot of passive stuff is the bounty stuff. Because like even just leveling up your bounty, you gain attack, HP, defense, physical defense, magic defense. Like you gained
yep.
every stat possible on your character as for leveling that up. So I mean, I'm all with you on that one. I think that was a great addition. Um, but I'd say that is that your only 2 cents on the matter?
Yeah, basically, I enjoyed the game. I'm excited to see what officially comes out, and I know that there's a lot of unreleased content, so I'm more excited to see what doesn't exist yet, because any apprehensions I may have will more than likely be automatically fixed by just a more complete build.
All right. Well, up next is one of our guild mates named Jay. Jay, introduce yourself, and at the same time, what positive things and negative things did you like and or dislike about the game? And when it comes to disliking it, what do you think could be improved on?
Okay, so I'm Jay Andy. It's my first MMO I've ever played, so this is definitely interesting. What I did like was the combat was snappy and responsive. Uh, what else? The world seemed to be pretty big as it already was. Uh, yeah, it just seemed like it was. I had a fun time. It was definitely fleshed out the way it was playable, the way it was played in this dev build. The the only two things really that I was not the happiest about was one, if you were maxed out on quests, if you took another quest, it would just erase one from your quest log and just put the new one in. There was no warrant, there was no screen saying, "Hey, this might erase one of your other quests." That's something I hope they fix in the future. The other thing was when fighting the wyverns, they could set you on fire, and it was somewhat, but not the most intuitive of trying to figure out exactly how it is you're supposed to put out that fire. Uh, it was what, 3 dodges to put that out.
Give or take.
I feel like that's a little bit long. I don't know, that might just be a me thing though. But
I,
other than
I,
that, it was a very enjoyable experience.
we say, watch it just be the easiest thing. You just go prone because it is stop, drop, and roll.
Son of a bitch. I no no. In the heat of combat, I did not think of that. I was just hitting dodge a bunch of times to try and put it out because
Fair enough.
kind of
To be
rolling with the
fair,
dodge.
we accidentally figured out how to crouch and go prone
That too.
yesterday.
Yeah, that too. Especially in the
Uh,
dungeon today.
well, okay, well,
No.
something I'll keep in mind for when I do pick it up, because if this is the way it is during a beta build, it's definitely it's enjoyable at the state it's already in, and I will definitely be considering picking this up when it fully releases.
Nice. All right, thank you. And real quick before we get over to Misfit, Raiders, hi, hello, everybody. We are currently doing our review segment of the stream, which is getting recorded for a YouTube video. But hi, hello, how are you everybody? And Embers, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome on in, Raiders. Let me go ahead and give you a quick shout out because I know you're doing Minecraft. I was lurking in your stream earlier. But thank you so much. Thank you. But we're gonna get back to the rest of this because I only have so much recording space left on my hard drive. Up next, our wonderful and fantastic guild leader, new to the VTubing community, an overall amazing friend here of the community, Misfit Legatus. Misfit,
You
go
don't
ahead
need
and
to.
introduce yourself and tell me your pros and cons of the game.
You don't need to lie to the people. I'm a terrible human being. No.
The fuck you mean?
I'm Misfit. I've been, streaming for a couple years now, and like Zage said, I'm looking to get into VTubing, but that requires something I don't have, and that's money. But anyway, as far as the game goes, overall, it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of just really little things that add up to make it frustrating at times, like the lack of friction. Inertia's great, but you need friction to balance it out. Uh, some of the movement could be janky. Targeting needs to be a lot better. I think one of the things that could help with that is having the ability, and I might have missed it, it could be there, but having the ability to change targets. And also the lock-on system needs a lot of work. Especially for ranged combat players, it needs a lot of work. It's not responsive to enemy movements. And when you lock onto somebody, my camera will do 360s when I try to lock onto somebody new.
Yeah, the auto lock
I
is
think,
completely awful for range combats.
yeah, yeah. Like Dapper said, a lot of the stuff. It's a lot of little stuff that's definitely going to be addressed in in the final product, or at least the full release. So overall, I enjoyed it. I think it doesn't seem like it's going to end up being that grindy of a game. I do kind of hope that there isn't a huge. It is a personal preference. I hope there isn't a huge emphasis placed on the gathering system, because that's not really what I look for in an MMO. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, because it needed to be, the one thing I hope that they add. I think a lot of us here will agree with that. Guild members should have the ability to trade with other guild members.
Just players in general.
Well, no,
I
because they
agree.
do that. That opens up a big door to people getting bot accounts. Because given the fact that this game's going to be free, just like BDO, it's going to open up that door where bots are going to be able to come in and sell shit for IRL money. That's going to open up a big ass door if you
Well, I mean, there's
grant
not
access
really
to
an
everything outside of the guild.
Well, I don't see how IRL money gets placed into like mining for iron and equipment, but
Yeah.
later down
Get
the
purple
line,
or
maybe.
orange grade or yellow grade equipment for X amount of IRL cash. That brings pay to win.
I mean, I guess, but that's
I feel
very
though
awkward.
as I feel though as
But so far, we've heard from everybody from the guild. Now it's my turn. As someone who's put in 30 hours of this, leveled up 2 characters to 15, within that time frame, which that is a really short time frame. Um, wonderful day for the unemployment, I guess. Uh, wonderful day for the unemployed. I will say the leveling system as it stands right now is great. However, as soon as you get to 13, or I want to say 12 and up, I mean, I understand that they may have put a temporary hold on that for the current build, since the maximum level is 25 for the beta build. It just felt like a drag. I understand that, maybe the max level may be 60 for all we know. And that's when, it's going to take a lot of stuff for us to do. Which, if that's our end game, that's going to be a lot of grinding, which is going to be a lot. Now, outside of that, I will say from the crafting system, I do recognize something similar to this, and that is from New World. For those of you that have played New World in the past, you know that there is a crafting mechanic in that game where you chop down trees, you get food from hunting and everything else like that too, and just overall even fishing. And you can craft whatever you like. For as far as food, meals, and everything else goes. My biggest thing with that, obviously, is you kind of need to make the gathering nodes a little bit more vibrant, so to indicate which is what. So let's say, for example, I go to get some cloth fiber from the plants. I forgot what they're called off the top of my head. But if we were to go and grab those and then we find one that's a rare one that's like, hey, has a higher chance of having better loot, do like what you guys did with the trees. Have it glow. But not mistaking it for the elemental plants. Like, it just needs to be distinctual on its own. That's my only take on that matter. The next thing I will say, the animations need to be heavily cleaned up from running side to side, because no ordinary person, including you in an MMO, sprints immediately going full on right and then come to a dead stop on a penny to then full dodge to the left. Like, there's a little bit of inertia involved in that, but obviously the animations need cleaned up on that. And I am glad to hear that that was one of the major things that this community as a whole for the game was providing us feedback, which means that will be getting worked on if they take our feedback seriously. The next thing outside of that would be archers. Archers, in my opinion, need a buff. And the immortality thing, while I understand that it does belong to berserkers, I feel the tanks need something that will keep them alive, similar to the immortality. Even if it's something similar in its own retrospective degree, it needs something so that the tanks have more survivability while trying to pump out damage and taunt the enemy. I think that's a very valid point on that one because as a berserker, you can sit there and cause bleed, do a shit ton of damage. You can even be an off tank. But the ones with the sword and shield, I don't feel as if they're pulling enough aggro. And they need something that can do that. Hopefully this will also be the case for the paladin if they bring the paladin in as a tank. You know, they're gonna need something that generates threat and generates taunt. Versus the other classes. Um Now, obviously, the pros that I do like about the game, obviously, skill-based combat. You do have to aim where you're trying to hit. The auto aim definitely needs a heavy rework because when I did play as my ranger, I felt like the auto aim was all over the place, except for on the enemy. And I think that was what Misfit had brought up, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Misfit.
Oh, I did. Yeah. Auto targeting for ranged combat is abysmal, and it's not responsive enough to
It's like swinging all
be
over the
able to
place, like you
target
have weapon
the.
recoil.
Yeah, and then the faster enemies that are dashing around, it is impossible for it to keep up with.
Agreed. And especially if this is going to come to console, that definitely needs so much work. Because not everybody's going to be able to move and shoot at the same time. Now, the final tidbit in relation to all that is the only other thing I didn't like is the party up dungeons. At one point, and I'm not sure if this was a glitch or not, but I'm from what I'm gathering from the community, this was definitely not. One of the 4 bosses that we have fought, in which we have killed all 4. One of the bosses that we fought essentially did something really ridiculous and funny. It dragged all 6 of us into it. Was there 6 of us or was there 5 of us?
5. There's 5 of us.
Dragged all 5 of us into the third fight, which since he spawns a shit ton of ads, I think it was on purpose that they allowed that to be an option. Because I saw other people doing it on stream too. So it definitely wasn't just a one case scenario with us. No, there was a lot of people doing it. Funny how that works. But I will say, for the means of cooperative playability and everything else like that, every single one of the bosses, in my opinion, should have a selectable means for a co-op option. And what I mean by that, and I think this will be a massive improvement. This will get a lot of positive feedback from the community overall. As let's say, for example, you're stuck on the 4th boss, and he hits the hardest since he can summon meteors. Let's say on the 4th boss, especially with this insta-kill tactic. Let's say, for example, you die 3, 4, 5 times plus, and you're kind of like, hey, I need some assistance. I need somebody to at least tank for me or something like that, or I need a healer, whatever the case may be. Having that option to bring in 1 or 2 of your guildmates or party members in the party system, I think that would be a great addition, because there may be other bosses that we're going to come across at a later point in this game. Because keep in mind, we only explored very few sections of the map. If they're going to bring in other additional boss fights for the movements and everything else like that, which I hope they do, then we're gonna have to possibly start looking into doing this as like a 2-3 person team, because it's going to be way too hard to do it solo. Having that option to get people together to beat a boss that may be super challenging for those 2 or those 3 people or 4 or 5 or 6, depending on what you guys put in on limitation on this, I think that would overall increase in the gameplay loop for it. Now, obviously, the only classes I can really kind of speak on is the Archer and the Berserker. I did not get a chance to play the Knight, who happens to be the Warrior. But, because I didn't get a chance to make it and try it at least. But I will say, from looking at their skill trees and their weapons, they do need something that generates threat as a tank, especially for the sword and shield.
If I may
100% for the sword and
intrude,
shield.
the sword and shield had plenty of options for drawing aggro.
It did?
Yes, it had plenty, and then there was even a passive you could get a little bit in, not even like that deep, that like your basic attacks generate threat.
But is it basic attacks on hit that generate threat? Or is it.
Yeah. Hitting your basics generate threat. There's a dash that gives you a taunt. There's a knock up that gives you threat or that raises your threat level. There were plenty of options for the sword and shield to generate taunt.
Okay.
Heck, even the greatsword also had ways to generate taunt as well.
Okay, because I know for Berserker, we had one, which is the minute we switched over to the Great Axe, we taunted everything within a certain mile radius. And it also lowers the attack that they go to do by, I think, like 10-20% for X amount of time.
Yeah. I think a big thing uh that might need to be looked at is better ways to convey information to the player. Um through the HUD system or what have you. There's just not an easy way to that I've seen that's like, hey, you have a buff or you're being debuffed or like I granted there were those squares, but those don't tell you anything really.
Yeah, and the same goes for
Um
finding these time gates because they were rather difficult unless one of us already knew.
Yeah, the time gate. There's just
Well,
being
not the
able to
time
convey
gates, the
information.
the chrono gates, the ones that led to the apostle.
Yeah, yeah. Being able to convey information to players is very important. And granted, you do not want to clutter a HUD, but you want to make sure that you're able to convey information in a way that is not frustrating for players. Which I found myself very frustrated in certain quests because it was not clear what was going on.
Yep. Now, one other thing, because I actually bring this up, this is actually brought up much earlier when we were doing the dungeon run that we found. The brightness in a very dark dungeon, I think, needs to be skewed up a little bit. And what I mean
Or
by that is,
ambient light adjusted.
yeah, because I know I didn't have a hard time seeing it, but that's, and keep in mind, my main monitor is at 100, but what stream sees is it being at its neutral 50% value. What I see is at 100, so it won't be like that at all. Um, but for, like, for example, for Misfit, because I was watching her POV on stream today, um, it was insanely dark, and trying to navigate through all that, trying not to get stuck on the random environmental details and everything else like that while fighting a shit ton of mobs, it's a little aggravating to say the least,
Yeah.
because like it is too much to keep track of in a very small confined space.
Oh yeah. And the fucking jumping with granted this is just a crossbow problem. I could be going
Yeah, your microphone cut out.
um it is just really a crossbow problem, but the jumping could be very finicky in which direction you go.
Yeah, I
I
feel
like what Sir Wolfric said. I was playing in my monitor in Oppenheimer mode.
pretty much, yeah. Max that brightness out to 1,000%.
Yep.
Flashbang. Uh,
Meh.
the minute you
Uh,
get near a light, flashbang. Um, go outside from going from a dark cave, flashbang. You want to see again? Tough shit. Um,
I need a reverse flashbang where the screen goes black.
yeah, pretty much.
Flashbang but dark mode.
Like these are all obviously. I want to reiterate for in case the devs actually do watch this because I will be submitting this to them. Um, I do want to make sure that they are aware that this feedback obviously is not just ones that we have brought up. There's been plenty of other streamers that even partners into the game, that are Twitch partners as well, that have brought up this exact same feedback. We understand that this is an old build and that this is coming from 2024 into 2025 being this old of a build. We do see a lot of promise with this game. I cannot stress that enough. This game can go far. It just needs the right amount of attention and promise to it. And what I mean by that is, in don't pull No Man's Sky, don't pull these other games that have promised us the world with their trailers to not make it look anything like their trailers. If you're going to promote a trailer and you say this is all in-game footage and the combat's going to be in-game footage, the game should be an active, reflective state of what you, as the development team, marketed it as. Oh, and one other tidbit. Bows need a massive buff,
Yeah, bows do not feel worth it as a ranger player.
especially since
Um,
you run out of arrows and you have to wait until they recharge.
yeah. One thing I actually do, one other con I actually would like to bring up, is during, especially during some of the jumping platforming puzzles, the when your character decides to grab onto a ledge seems a bit inconsistent at times. I don't want it necessarily to be a tighter window or to be closer, but I just want it to feel more consistent.
That's probably something like Dapper and I were talking about. There's things that are obviously going to be adjusted. Uh, um,
Just by natural game development.
yeah, just by natural game development.
Well, I guess the one thing I would have to say is keep the double jump. That was fun. I
Yeah,
don't know
no,
if that
that's
was
Yeah.
100% a
intentional, and I
thing.
highly doubt it was. But keep it. That's the big thing I want to add.
Yeah, I like the joke that you came up with earlier that said, hey, you know, since we are technically chronomancers and time mancers and all that stuff, is that we just went back in time just to get ourselves another jump. Wasn't that the joke that you were, Jay?
Basically.
I was gonna say, I know somebody brought it up today.
Yeah.
Wasn't me.
I was gonna say it wasn't today, but it was me.
Was it Hefe that brought it up?
No,
I
it was
know, it was
Dapper.
me
It was
yesterday.
yesterday. It was Dapper
Oh, it
yesterday.
was Dapper yesterday. Okay. 'Cause I
Yep.
was gonna say, because that was actually pretty cool. That was actually really funny. I like that whole aesthetic of that. That in my opinion was really good. But I think all of us here have said our piece. I know a lot of us also wish to go to bed and everything else like that. So what I will do at the end of this video is that way the devs know where to look in case we go to stream this game, which I'll be honest, 100%, I'm going to be streaming this game. I'm going to be streaming Chrono Odyssey and everything else like that the minute it comes out here in Q4 of 2025. Mainly because of the fact that I did fall in love with it. It just, like I said, needs that fine tuning. But I'm going to go from left to right. I want everyone to, in the video here, I want everyone to go ahead and give their socials, where they can find you, what platforms you stream on, and or make content on. And that way I can also provide that to the devs. So going from left to right, Dapper, you're up first.
My name is Dapper Dice. I stream action and story games on Twitch, and if time allows and I have the effort for it, I will occasionally post videos on YouTube, mostly of the streams. That way, if you did miss the streams, my content is always rewatchable on YouTube, generally.
Awesome. And do you plan on streaming this game when it comes out?
Yeah, when it comes to Chrono Odyssey, I definitely hope to stream it. I just want it to come out sooner rather than later after a bit of polish. That's all.
All right. Well, thankfully, we have something to look forward to for Q4 of 2025. Jay, you're up next. You also stream and or make content. And where can they find you at?
I do neither. I am mostly off of social media and not a streamer or content creator. I'm just here to enjoy the game.
You're just one of our valued guild members that likes to go right into the thick of it.
Yep.
Oh, God. I just imagine
Yeah.
the raids that they plan on bringing to the game. Oh,
Yeah, like 24-man raids.
they said it was going to be up to 6 people for normal raids.
Oh boy.
I thought I saw something like they're like 24-man like world raids or something like that.
Well, yeah, world raids are a different thing. I think that's everybody on the server can join. Just like it is with world bosses, everybody in there can join. But up next is a wonderful and fantastic guild leader himself, Misfit the Goddess. What do you?
Ew.
I know you live stream because I brought it up multiple times during all this, but I was gonna say,
Yeah, so I Misfit. I stream on Twitch as much as I can. I do a little bit of everything as long as it's not racing or sports. Uh, Yeah.
Do you plan on
You
making
can find
content on this
me.
game?
Yeah. Assuming that it can,
Find the
polish it
time.
up and keep my interest, and yeah, also find the time. I do plan on streaming this. You can find me everywhere at by searching Misfit Legatus, except Twitter, which is Legatus Misfit, because I couldn't get the other way around for some reason.
Somebody stole your name.
Apparently.
But I was gonna say, do you post any YouTube videos, anything like that?
No, I don't have time for YouTube, unfortunately, as much as I would like to.
Fair enough. Um, and then there's obviously me. I am a music producer and DJ. Everyone calls me official DJ Zage, otherwise known as just DJ Zage. In game, as I was for the meme, I went as DJ Kratos. We were on NA52. What server we plan on being on once it gets closer to release? We'll discuss that when it gets closer to release. I think
We were
we're
on
gonna have our own guild
NA53,
channel
if
and
I
everything
remember
in Misfits
correctly.
Discord for that.
Mm.
But hopefully we'll be on a much higher number going forward, because I don't know if it was just me or something like that, but being near the end of the list, there was hardly anybody on that server when we needed them to be. Not just the guild members. I'm saying like world members wise. The 52 just seemed very dead in comparison to 1 through 10. But I will try to make my best effort on making YouTube videos and everything else like that. I also make YouTube shorts, and I also do music remixes and stuff like that for video games and the like. I actually got some ideas in mind for that later, coming up here soon for some ideas. But I will say that if I have the time and everything else like that, yes, I will be streaming. It depends on my work schedule. I also plan on trying to involve as much of the people from our guild in conversations like this, because it may the game come out and it still needs improvement. I still think constructive criticism like what we are offering today and in this video will be very useful to the developers. But other than that, thank you guys for watching. Everyone there at the dev studio, please keep doing the awesome work that you're doing. And please give this game 110% of the effort. It has got a massive, massive potential. And a lot of us are believing in this game because of the fact that we see the potential that's in it. We don't see it right now in this build, but we see what it could be. We see that it could be molded into something great.